to Spectral Hauntings. Unveil the mysteries of the supernatural with us. Dive into the shadows and explore the ethereal realms as we showcase ghostly encounters, haunted locations, and spine-chilling tales of the paranormal. Join us on a journey beyond the veil, where each video is a portal to the unknown. What to expect? In-depth investigations into haunted places, real and compelling ghost encounters, hauntingly beautiful locations with a dark history, and paranormal stories that send shivers down your spine. Open the door to the other side. Whether you're a seasoned ghost hunter or a curious skeptic, our channel offers a window into the spectral unknown. Prepare to be captivated by the unexplained, the mysterious, and the downright eerie. Join the spectral crew. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and become a part of our spectral community. Share your own ghostly encounters, theories, and thoughts in the comments. After all, in the world of the paranormal, every perspective adds a new layer to the mystery. Embark on this supernatural journey with us. Subscribe now and let the hauntings begin.
Rise up to terrify the living.
I was terrified.
That freaked me out.
That's an indication of suicide.
I mean, I thought, okay, this is it, I'm gonna die.
I buried this for nearly 30 years.
Be prepared to be afraid.
Paranormal Survivor from the Graveyard. Interview with Diana Stevens. Take 1. Marking.
The schoolhouse had been converted into a private residence when we moved in. The graveyard that's next to the house is a really old graveyard by American standards. I believe the original graves there were date back to about 1750. The cemetery is still active. People are being buried there regularly. We probably have a funeral once every couple of weeks. And there's one gravestone in particular that's pretty much in our front yard. When we moved into the house, Michaela was 4. It was within a couple of months of moving in that Michaela started to have problems with what she called people in her room.
I remember feeling people watching me when I was sleeping in my bed.
She felt that there was a crowd around her sometimes when she went to bed, looking at her. And she kept saying that she had to pull the covers up because she felt that she didn't want to be watched.
I was pretty scared because I didn't understand why people were standing around my bed looking at me.
Michaela's terrifying nighttime visitors became a regular occurrence.
I decided I wanted to have a tent on my bed, just something to cover my bed, just so I had something over me.
Eventually, she wanted to sleep under a small table in her room. I was beginning to feel that maybe there were things in the house that I wasn't aware of, that she was seeing, and as a child was more open to than perhaps I was.
Children are often more attuned to the spiritual world because they're innocent. So they're innocent and they're more accustomed to absorption. They will absorb the energy rather than ignore it.
Kids are more attuned to the spiritual world because they literally see everything. We tend to be born with 6 senses. We rely on our 5, but the 6th sense is the one that as adults we tend to lose. Children have that from literally early on, and they can see everything, which makes them very vulnerable.
One night I was in my room in the middle of the night. Thunder woke me up. I saw a man standing in the corner of the room near me. He didn't do anything. He just stared into the other part of my bedroom. And I screamed. And when I had the courage, I booked it to my grandma's room.
I jumped up and ran down the stairs as fast as I could, and she was already in bed with my mother.
It's a monster!
And she said there was a man in my room. And I said, "You were dreaming." And she said, "No, I wasn't dreaming. I saw him. I was lying under my table, and I saw him standing by my door, and he was just looking off into the other part of the room."
I was terrified. Now my room wasn't my safe space anymore because people were watching me. There was a man in my room. I didn't want to sleep there anymore.
It was really tough being a mother to see that my daughter was that frightened.
The next morning, Diana asked Michaela to show her what had been scaring her so much during the night.
I drew 3 pictures of people that I had seen. I drew one of the man that I saw when I was sleeping under the table. I knew instantly that he was a pastor of some sort, so I drew him in a robe. And then the other one that I drew was the face in the tent.
The face pressing through the tent, which was frightening because the face it kind of has its mouth open as though to yell.
The third one that I did, it's a crowd of people standing around me.
It was terrifying too. The third picture was of the figures who stood around her bed.
Pictures that I drew are pretty freaky looking, especially of the people in the room standing around me, the crowd of people.
I was surprised at how specific and detailed these pictures were. That freaked me out. That scared me, because then I thought, okay, we have something really serious going on now. This is when I started to get frightened, because then I started to see what she was seeing, and it was no longer something nebulous or that maybe had happened in her imagination.
If a child has an experience and then draws what they see, because children do tend to take things at face value, these things that they draw are absolutely unembellished. They are what they see.
So a child will start to color what it's seeing, and if the photo or the picture or the drawing is getting progressively worse and darker, that tells the parent that there's a problem that needs to be addressed.
As time wore on, Diana started to experience the paranormal activity for herself.
One day I came home from work and I walked in the front door of my house, and my son was home from college on break, so I knew that he might be home.
Hi, I'm home.
And when I walked in the front door, there was a party going on. There was music, there were people talking, there was like the sound of glasses clinking. It was a party.
Hello?
And I thought it was coming from his bedroom.
Diana Stevens and her family had moved into a new home. But it didn't take long for spirits to make themselves known. After her daughter Michaela had been terrified by apparitions in her bedroom,
There's a monster!
Diana soon experienced the eerie disturbances for herself.
So I opened his bedroom door and there was no one there. The noise shut off and there was no one in the house. I felt as though I had walked into a dream when the noises suddenly just shut off, because I fully expected, totally 100% expected, that there were people in my house, my son and his friends, that were having a good time. And instead, there was no one here. That was the first time I really took a deep breath and said, wow, we have ghosts. It scared me. It really scared me because I had never had an experience like this.
The ghostly activity began to affect Diana's mom as well.
My mom said, I had a really horrible experience last night, and she said I was lying in bed, and I suddenly felt someone climb into bed next to me. She felt the sheets move, she felt the pressure on the mattress. She thought at first that one of the kids had come in and sat down on the bed, and when she turned over, she saw an old woman lying next to her.
And she said, "Get out of my bed." And the woman was gone.
She felt it was someone who had come from the graveyard and didn't yet know that she had passed on.
My grandma said that they were probably just passing through and trying to find something to latch onto, and my grandma was not having that.
I was concerned about my mother because she doesn't get shaken up very easily, and this frightened her.
With all the strange occurrences in the home, Diana decided she needed professional help.
When I reached out to Mark, I wanted to, first of all, have him validate what we had been seeing and experiencing.
She was concerned for her family, obviously, not knowing exactly who was there. She wanted to find out why they were there and why so much activity was happening.
I said to myself, wow, this is going to be some interesting case. Look at all this energy. There was a tremendous amount of energy on this property. Even though it was a very old cemetery, there was a lot of activity, more than usual.
Historically, we found that spirits who stay earthbound try to cling on to what they had when they were alive. And the biggest thing, the closest thing to them is their body. So often they will linger in cemeteries. And in this case, it was quite a good possibility that some of the activity, at least, could have been caused by spirits roaming from the cemetery into their home. If Diana was right, there were souls that were trapped there. We wanted to make sure that they got out of there and transitioned properly to where they need to go. I sent Virginia and another investigator into the daughter's room. They started to notice these EMF spikes randomly happening.
EMF stands for electromagnetic field. And when a researcher is investigating a location, they will have EMF detectors. And when the detector spikes, essentially, it means that something is manifesting in the area.
I walked into the daughter's room, which was on the right-hand side, and as I was standing there, as clear as a bell, this reverend came in. The reverend, I felt, was watching over the grave sites, watching over his community. He felt responsible for all that lived in the area.
So when Michaela had seen that man in the robe, she felt frightened, but in fact, what Virginia said to us was that he was simply looking around, making sure everything was okay, and he had no intention of frightening Michaela.
The ghostly reverend was only the beginning.
One of our investigators had actually seen what he believed was a shadow figure walk down the hallway on the first floor. When he first saw it, he was a little bit startled. He wasn't expecting to see anybody back there. Virginia really quickly picked up on a spirit of a man she believed was named Henry. She felt Henry came from the cemetery.
I felt his grave was outside of the graveyard. That's an indication of suicide.
We had heard through people who have lived here for many years that the tombstone in our front yard was from a man who committed suicide.
Stephen's new home was situated next to a graveyard, which proved to be a conduit for spirits. Not long after moving in, paranormal activity began to manifest in terrifying ways. Desperate, Diana called in experts to help. They soon made a chilling discovery.
The tombstone in our front yard was from a man who committed suicide.
Sometimes they don't bury them with the group. So I said, is he outside somewhere? Is his gravesite outside? And they said, yes, there's one stone. You couldn't see it. I said, this man harmed himself.
Virginia indicated to us that he was wandering and continuing to walk around the house to find a way to exit, to do something to move on. But he was afraid of moving on because he was afraid he would go to hell.
He didn't want to cross over because of his teachings, because of what he was taught, that if you take your own life, you're condemned.
It made me very sad to think that there was someone here who felt so trapped.
Even after you pass, certain things stick with you. And this is what kept him grounded to the earth. He couldn't move forward. It was like he was in quicksand.
Mark and his team had their work cut out for them in order to cleanse the spirits from the home.
So when we came up with our plan to resolve this haunting, one of the people we wanted to focus on was the man who committed suicide.
They determined that we had to cross over this one gentleman who was stuck in limbo because he committed suicide.
Virginia actually set up a portal by which anyone who wanted to go